I helped him build his business, and he replaced me. When I first met Ethan, he was just a dreamer with no real plan. He had ideas, plenty of them, but no money, no direction, and honestly, no clue where to start. I didn't fall in love with what he had. I fell in love with his determination, his fire, and the way his eyes lit up whenever he spoke about the future he wanted to build. Back then, we were both young and broke. We lived in a tiny apartment with creaky floors and a leaking sink. But to us, it was paradise. He worked late nights waiting tables, and I was juggling 2 part-time jobs just to keep us afloat. Still, we shared everything: our food, our struggles, and our dreams. One night, after another exhausting day, he told me, "Someday I'll own my own business. Someday people will know my name." I laughed, not because I didn't believe him, but because I knew how far away that someday was. But then I looked into his eyes and I realized he was serious. He wasn't just dreaming, he was planning. And from that moment on, I decided to stand by him, no matter how difficult it got. We started small. He wanted to open his own marketing agency, but he had no clients, no portfolio, and no money to invest. So I took the little savings I had and poured it into his idea. It wasn't much, but it was enough to get him started with a website, some basic equipment, and the licenses he needed. At first, it was just the 2 of us. He handled the creative side while I handled the administrative mess: emails, invoices, client calls, and even cleaning up his workspace. I became his unofficial partner, his right hand, his support system. I believed in him even when no one else did. There were nights we cried because the bills piled up faster than the payments came in. There were days we doubted whether we'd made the right choice. But every time Ethan felt like giving up, I reminded him of why he started. And every time I felt exhausted, he promised me it would all be worth it. Slowly, the business grew. He got his first real client, then another, and soon word of mouth began to spread. I was proud of him, proud of us. It wasn't just his business. It was our sacrifice, our work, our dream. But then things started to change. The more successful Ethan became, the less he seemed to acknowledge me. He was busy all the time, meeting new people, going out to networking events, and spending hours away from home. I told myself it was just part of the growth, part of the grind. But deep down, something inside me whispered that I was being left behind. And I was right. The first real sign that something was wrong came when Ethan stopped introducing me as his partner. In the beginning, whenever we met clients or attended small gatherings, he would proudly say, "This is Sarah. She's been with me since day 1. Couldn't have done it without her." Those words made me feel seen, valued, like I wasn't just in the background, but part of the story we were writing together. But as his success grew, my name was mentioned less and less. At events, I suddenly became just his girlfriend, someone standing by his side while he shook hands and exchanged business cards. People assumed I was just there for support, and Ethan never corrected them. He stopped giving me credit, stopped acknowledging the nights I stayed up balancing the books, or the times I sacrificed my own stability so he could keep chasing his dream. I tried to ignore it, telling myself it was just pride, that maybe he didn't want to look like he needed help in front of other professionals. But it stung. Then came Olivia. She was young, ambitious, and newly hired as his assistant. I remember the first time I met her. Ethan introduced her with more excitement than he had introduced me in months. "She's sharp, quick, and exactly what we need to take this business to the next level," he said. I smiled politely, but deep down, something in me twisted. At first, I tried to be supportive. I thought maybe Olivia's presence would take some pressure off me, that I could finally rest from the endless to-do lists. But instead, I felt myself being pushed out. Tasks I had always handled were suddenly handed to her. He stopped asking for my opinion, stopped relying on me. When I brought it up, Ethan brushed it off with, "You're overthinking things." Olivia's just helping with the workload, but it wasn't just about the work. He started staying out later, claiming he was with clients or at meetings. He began dressing differently, caring more about how he looked before leaving the house. And when he came home, he was distant, distracted, his phone glued to his hand. One night, after he had gone to bed, I saw a notification light up on his phone. It was a message from Olivia. I didn't open it, but the preview said enough. Can't stop thinking about tonight. My chest tightened. I wanted to believe there was an explanation. Maybe they were talking about a project. Maybe tonight meant something harmless. But I knew better. I confronted him the next morning. His face went pale, then defensive. He swore nothing was happening, that Olivia respected him, that I was making a big deal out of nothing. But the way he avoided my eyes, the way his hands shook as he tried to brush it off, it told me everything I needed to know. The man I had believed in, the man I had built a life with, the man I had sacrificed so much for, was slipping away from me. And Olivia was the reason. The day it all came crashing down started like any other. Ethan had a big investor meeting, and I offered to help him prepare, like I always did. But instead of gratitude, he snapped at me. "I don't need your help anymore, Sarah. Just stay out of it." Those words cut deep. I had stood by him through every failure, every sleepless night, every financial risk. And now, suddenly, he didn't need me? I tried to brush it off, but I could feel the distance growing larger with every passing day. A week later, I decided to surprise him at the office. I wanted to remind him of what we had built together, maybe even rekindle the connection we had lost. But when I walked in, what I saw shattered me. Ethan was sitting at his desk with Olivia beside him. Not in a professional way, not as an assistant, but intimately close. She laughed at something he whispered, her hand on his arm like it belonged there. And he looked at her the way he used to look at me, like she was the only person in the room. I froze. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, cry, demand answers. But instead, I turned and left quietly, my heart pounding in my ears. That night, he came home late again. I was waiting. When I asked him directly, "Are you with Olivia?" he didn't deny it this time. He sighed, sat down, and said the words that crushed me completely. "She understands me in a way you don't anymore. We're moving in a different direction, Sarah. I think it's time we go our separate ways just like that." As if I was disposable. As if the years I gave him, the sacrifices I made, the part of my soul I poured into his dream, didn't matter at all. 2 weeks later, I found out through mutual friends that Olivia wasn't just his new assistant. She was his new partner. He introduced her to investors, to friends, even to his family, the way he used to introduce me. And worst of all, he gave her credit for ideas that I had helped him create long before she ever showed up. I had been erased, replaced. I remember sitting alone in my apartment, staring at the ceiling, wondering how I had let it get this far. How had I given so much to someone who could turn around and betray me so easily? But here's the thing I've realized. I may have lost him, but I didn't lose myself. He took my trust, my love, and my effort for granted. But he can't take away the strength it took to build him up, or the strength it took to walk away. Ethan might have replaced me with Olivia, but one day, he'll realize that what I gave him wasn't something he'll ever find again. And when that day comes, it will be too late.
If this story kept you hooked until the very end, don't forget to subscribe to Storybar, give this video a like, share it with your friends, and leave a comment below. Your support helps us bring you even more stories full of drama, betrayal, love, and life-changing decisions. Don't miss the next one.